Welcome to the Oh Brother podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How's it going, Dan?
Good, man. Happy holidays. Happy New Year's Eve, 2021. And we are wrapping up, pardon the pun, we're wrapping up season 2 of the Oh Brother podcast.
We made it.
Putting a bow on this one, as it were, with really the most fitting way that you could do it, which is an interview with Cindy Busby, who maybe next to Mrs. Claus, who else could you want on this episode of the Oh Brother podcast?
The perfect Christmas guest.
Yes.
Holiday guest. Because for people who don't know Cindy, she's, she's a big time star on Hallmark. Lifetime. It's funny because whenever I go to, the VCR to tape something, there's never any room because Oh Mother likes to record, all of those movies.
You're still using the VCR.
Yeah, well,
we do talk about the 80s in this interview with Cindy quite a bit.
I know.
So I guess that's relevant.
Why? What do you call it now?
It's a DVR, not a VCR.
Yeah, I guess.
You threw me there. It's really, but yeah, for those of you that may not be familiar with her work, go out to her website, cindybusby.com. She's also on Instagram, Cindy_Busby. Same on Twitter, I believe, as well. And we'll put those here in the video for you.
We can actually confirm that the Cindy Busby you watch on TV
is
the exact same Cindy Busby you're going to talk to. She's just exactly who she is.
Yeah, just tons of energy, super positive, just, really, really great. Very, like you said, very expressive and
it's
just
funny,
really fascinating.
Months ago, you mentioned we haven't had an interview in a while.
It's been a while, yeah.
We haven't really gone after anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But the one person you mentioned several times to me was Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
And as Christmas was getting closer, you kept saying, we got to do Cindy. We got to get Cindy. And I'm like, well, get her then, and sure enough, you got her.
We were fortunate enough to, it was great that she agreed to do it. And we just had a really fun time and some laughs there along the way too. So we hope that you'll enjoy this interview. For those of you that are not currently following us, make sure that you do. And the easiest way to find all things Oh Brother is to go out to our official website, which is B as in brother, podcast.com. Oh, look at, I have one of the generic mugs.
Oh,
I got caught. Look at
it's bad.
But thankfully you saved me.
Yeah.
So it's ohbpodcast.com. You can get access to all things Oh Brother out there. And make sure, follow us on YouTube, hit that notification bell, hit the thumbs up. That really would help us out if you do that. We're trying to make subscribe. Yeah, we're trying to get the show out to more and more folks. So if you can help us spread the word, we'd really appreciate that. And this is a great episode to do that with, because this interview with Cindy is just, we think you're going to find it highly enjoyable and highly entertaining. So
and for those who might not recognize her name, I bet you've seen her. I almost guarantee you've seen her on something.
Yeah,
She's
check out her resume on IMDb. It's very impressive. So enjoy this interview with actress Cindy Busby.
Hello.
Hey.
Oh.
Hey, Cindy.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good day.
Oh, that's a nice Truman Show reference. I like that. That's
I actually
good.
Just watched it recently again.
Oh, did you?
Good. Yeah.
Oh.
I think that is one of his best.
It's good.
So good. Also, I'm sorry. Back to the Future behind you. Okay, now you officially have my heart.
All right, great.
Well, he's just upgraded his background. He had this old 80s clock that was on the wall. Literally, it's been around since like the 80s. It was pretty sad. So that's an upgrade.
Yeah.
Well, what better thing to replace it with than something from the 80s? Like
that's true. That's true.
I've got 3 decades covered there. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so
totally.
None of which are your favorite films, as we've talked about, which is kind of interesting. You know,
Yeah,
he's
no.
he's like Citizen Kane. He's a big film noir guy. That's some of the stuff.
Oh
that he
yeah.
Have you seen? It makes me think when you talk about Truman Show and Jim Carrey, and you've done so many television movies. He did
Mhm.
one of his earliest appearances was a TV movie called Doing Time on Maple Drive. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
You should try to find it
Me either.
because it's like you said, Mike, he's got such good dramatic chops that
Mhm.
it really shows in that film. I think he's an alcoholic and he's in this dysfunctional family and, but
Yeah.
it's a good cast and
Okay.
he's really incredible in it. Yeah. So if you can find it, it's again, probably the eighties, I would say. So,
Okay. Well, I'm a huge fan of the 80s as far as movies go. So I'll definitely look into it. That sounds exciting. Plus
Yeah.
it's like pouring rain here in LA. So we've been just like looking
Oh.
at things to watch and
Are you working right now?
no, not working right now. This is like usually these 2 weeks, like Christmas, New Year's, are typically like the time of year where actors don't work or
Right.
anyone in the industry for the most part. So it's kind of nice because you can like just totally disconnect and not think about like, what am I missing out on? Or like, what's going on out there? Like, if my agent's not calling me, it's normal.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting because I was curious if you were living in Canada still, because you still work a lot in Canada, right?
Oh yeah, I work a lot in Canada. And it's forever my home because that's where I'm from.
Right.
But yeah, I'm here right now. I'm with my husband and my dog. And
Nice.
yeah, we're just
Do you have
creating
dual
holidays.
citizenship? Do you have
I have
citizenship?
a green card. So I have my American green card
Okay, so you don't
and
have to
citizen of
worry
Canada.
about you're shooting a movie and I got to skip back to Canada for a few days.
Yeah,
You
no,
know, you don't have to
I'm
worry
all
about
set
that.
legally on that. I did all the work, and boy, is it a lot of work. Let me tell
Yes,
you.
they make it tough.
So tell
Yeah,
us,
they do, but it makes sense. So yeah, no, it's a very relieving process when it's all over.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
mentioned your husband and your dog. Tell us about Suze. Is it
I
now
mean, how much
Sue?
time do
Is
you
it just
have?
Suze or is it because we're big
No, okay,
animal
so
lovers too?
I mean, here's the thing. I don't know if you guys have animals, but or ever had one, but I feel like you always, or any human for that matter, like you always kind of change up their name, right? Like they get like all these nicknames
Yeah.
and nobody really ends up calling them their real name. Like I have so many nicknames for myself. Well, not for myself, but that have been given to me. And so we adopted Susie in
Susie.
July of this year. She's, a mix of all the greatness. And she's 7.5. And her name was Susie when we got her. And I just think it's funny to call her like, hey, Suze. Okay, well, she's probably gonna come now. But and then I don't know. One day I was just being, ridiculous and called her Bubby Poo, and so now she's also Bubby. And then I make up songs that go along with it, like her name. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that happens in this household when not working. It's very, very interesting stuff.
You're already making her an Instagram star too. I see she's out.
I'm so bad with all that like social media stuff. Like I'm always like, who cares about my life really? Like that's how I see it. And I'm always amazed that like when I do post something, people are like, oh my goodness, like or whatever. And I'm like, oh, like people, like I don't know. I'm still kind of like old fashioned in that way where like, I would still remember the day where my friend told me about Facebook and I was like, what is this thing? Like,
Right.
Facebook.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, I'm like, oh, posting about a cute dog, everybody loves that. So that's just easy.
But somebody like you, a lot of people know you because you work a lot. I mean, I think I counted 10 movies in 2019. Was that right? Or was it more?
So I think I shot, I think it was 7 movies in 2019.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the most I'd ever done.
That's a lot.
But I am a big believer that everything happens for a reason. And then, 2020 hit and all that. So it was,
right.
For me at the time, without knowing, what was to be, I was actually kind of like happy to have some rest, to be honest, because it was like a very intense 2019. And then we traveled during the holidays because I was already in Australia. So then Chris, my then boyfriend, met me, and we spent like the holidays in Australia, and then we went to Bali, and we just like made a trip out of it. But yeah, I've been able to work a lot in the last couple of years. It certainly wasn't like that for the first part of my career, I'll tell you that much. So yeah, I feel very lucky right now, and you never know what happens next.
Well, that's one thing we wanted to get into. I know, Mike, sort of the origin story. Can you sort of, for those that don't know?
Yeah, go back to, we know you went to Dawson, right?
Yeah,
which is in Canada.
Yeah, Montreal.
And so take us through that time, and then how you get into the movies, into the TV shows, things like that.
Well, I was I was just a kid who doesn't have anyone in, like my dad. My dad did a couple movies when he was like in his 20s, and he did like theater and stuff growing up. But it wasn't something that he kept going like past like 25 or something like that. But other than that, I don't have anyone in my family that's like in the industry or anything like that. So it was really like one of those things where Cindy's like, I'm going to be an actor. And everyone's like, what? Like,
right.
No. That's not a thing. But I was like obsessed with watching movies like Back to the Future, whatever, Wayne's World, Interview with the Vampire, like all these movies where I would just memorize all the lines of those movies and just like say them. And like my family was very big, as like most 80s kids were probably, like very big on watching television and movies. And so then I was in the school plays in elementary school, and then in high school. And then when I was at the end of high school, people were like, submitting for, in Montreal, we have a thing called CEGEP, which is like 2 years of school before you go to university, because we only have grade 11 there. And then you go 2 years, which is actually a really great transition because it gets you ready for university, but that's a whole
Yeah.
So then people were like, yeah, I'm going to do chemistry and like, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, I'm going to be an actor. How do I do that? And then I found this program. Well, it was between Dawson and this school called John Abbott. And I think that's what it's called. And then I auditioned for the program. I had no idea what I was doing. I've never like auditioned other than like in high school, and I ended up getting in, and, they only took, I think, like, it's still a public school, so they still have like a mandate of how many people they have to take in. But I think we were like 90 students. And then at the end, when we graduated, we were like 22 or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a very rigorous program. It really gets you ready in a way to like what the industry is about, because anyone who's been on a set, it's not all glitz and glamour like people think it is. But hurry up and wait. Yes, exactly. And so I did that program. And then when I was in my second year, at the end, we had a project that we had to do where we had to go meet someone in the industry. I was like, I don't know anyone in the industry. And our teachers were like, you got to make some phone calls and like put yourself out there. And I was like kind of shy about that. I was like, oh, like, I don't want to like meet someone. I don't know how to meet them. Like, they don't care about me, some theater school, whatever. And then I remember my teacher, I totally like cheated on this. My teacher was like, it's like, oh, you can go try to meet someone in the industry. And let's say, they blow you off or they cancel on you or whatever, then you can write about that experience. And I was like, done. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to pretend like I met someone in the industry. And so I remember dropping off my headshot and resume at an agency in Montreal. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, hi, I'm just dropping off my headshot and resume. My resume literally had like theater school student and like high school play. And then I dropped it off and they're like, oh, we're actually like not looking for anyone right now. And, I'd like made myself cute and everything. And I was like, cool. You're not looking for anyone. Great. Awesome. No problem. See you later. Bye-bye now. And I like left. And then I remember the next day, I think I had like maybe a pager back then. I don't know. But I got a message from them and I called them back and they're like, yeah, we actually have an audition for you if you'd like to go for a show. And I was like, what?
That's
I
not
don't know what that.
That's
like,
not
what do you-
part of the
Wow.
plan.
No, that's not part of the plan. So then I went to the audition. I did it. No idea. Like it was probably awful. But then I found out, I think it was the next day or so, that I got the part, which, like, let's be honest, doesn't really happen. Like, I just want to say that that's not how it works.
Right.
But I ended up getting it. But then when the show shot, it was like during my last week of school, during all my exams. And my school was so strict that, like, if you missed a day, you were like in trouble, unless you were like basically dying, like you always went to school, because that's how the industry is anyway, right? Like if you're sick, like, well, not now, but when you were back then, you go to work. And so anyway, I had to turn it down, and I was kind of like bummed out. And then I ended up getting a call, and they're like, well, they actually found a part for you in the next episode, so you could do that. And I was like, what?
Wow.
So anyway, I did that. It was like 4 days of work, and I ended up signing with that agent. And I don't think I worked again for like maybe 2 years, because then I finished school and I was like, I can't miss school. I remember getting my first paycheck though for that, and I was like, I didn't even know like how much I was going to get paid or anything. I remember I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
Time to upgrade that pager.
Yeah, then I got one of those flip phones.
Yeah, the big Wall Street
Brick,
80s
yeah.
phone. Yeah,
My dad had one of those. They were pretty sweet.
that's funny.
So that's like the very short version, even though it seems really long.
So how long after that is it that you get the gig on Heartland?
So I graduated theater school in 2003, and I basically didn't work during that 2003. So that was in 2002, my first job. 2003, I didn't work. 2004, I mostly didn't work, but I think I got like a little part or so. But then Heartland, I auditioned for in 2007. 2007? Yeah, 2006. And then I think we got picked up in 2007 for the first season. So like a couple years.
And that's still going.
15 seasons.
That's
Isn't
incredible.
That I know.
Incredible. And you were what, like 7 seasons?
I was,
something like that?
so I was 4, like almost full seasons. And then I came back for, I think it was 2 episodes in in the 6th season.
So now, did you do some of that equestrian work, or how did that?
Yeah, so when I found out that I got the part, I didn't have to write in the pilot, but then as soon as I found out that the show was actually picked up, I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm supposed to be like this competitive writer, but it wasn't like a prerequisite for the job. But it was for the role of Amy, who was played by Amber Marshall. And so I remember immediately, like on my own dime, going and taking lessons and doing the whole like ranch life and that kind of thing. And then that way I felt like more comfortable around horses. And then we shot the first season, and then they also gave us some lessons like on some days off and things. But we always had stunt coordinators and stunt people doing the stuff, because first of all, it's not worth the risk of like your actor, even Amber, who is very skilled writer, had a stunt double as well, because you do one false move, you break your arm, and then the whole season is messed up.
Right. We've talked about on the show before, or Mike has mentioned the famous W.C. Fields quote of, never work with children or animals. And you've done all of that in your career.
I really have. I really have.
Would you give that same warning having done that?
Honestly, I would say for the most part, animals, typically the ones that find themselves on set, are probably more skilled than most actors.
Yeah.
Not most actors, but the thing is they come in on set only when they're ready to do the job, like only when it's like the camera's on them. So like anytime, it's just on me, like a close up or, a 2 shot, and the dog is on the ground, like the dog's not there, like the dog is chilling in the van or whatever. And they only bring the dog when ready. And it's typically similar with kids as well, depending on their age, because they only have so much energy. So you don't want to use up their energy and their focus when not needed. But honestly, in my experience, I'd say that's not completely accurate. for the most part. I'd probably say like kids under 5 are a little bit more difficult because, you know, I don't know if you guys have kids, but they have a lot of energy and all of a sudden they don't. And
Right.
it doesn't matter what you give them, what treat, if they don't want to do something, they ain't doing it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that for dogs too, but dogs like treats and they'll eat till they explode. So
this is true. You know, we were thinking it couldn't be anybody better to have on because we're wrapping up this second season of our podcast and thought, you know, you're just the perfect person with the holiday resume that you've got on top of everything you've done. And of course, we want you to talk about your two most recent, you know, Joy for Christmas, Toying with the Holidays, because you have that interaction with animals and kids in these. Can you talk a little bit about those projects and the production and the filming and timing of all of that?
Yeah, so the first one was Towing with the Holidays, which was with Chad Michael Murray. And we actually shot that in August of this year. And that was shot in North Bay, Ontario. So I had actually never been there. It's a very like cute small town. Probably it's like 4 hours from Toronto. And it was so hot. Like
really,
we actually went through a bit of a heat wave. Like typically, like Ontario is quite like muggy, like very East Coast vibes. But they said in North Bay, usually it's not that hot, and we just were going through a heat wave, wearing all of our winter gear, making it look like Christmas.
Right, with the snow and everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so fun. I had such a blast. You know, Callum Schonecker, who plays my son, is such a talented young guy. And he's yeah, I had a lot of fun. You know, I haven't had the opportunity to play a lot of moms in my career yet. So the few times I have, it's quite a special experience. And yeah, and Chad, you know, I mean, he's been around forever and like such a well-known, you know, performer. And it was really cool. Like I really enjoyed working with him. He's such a professional on, you know, like a different level. Like he's just like super prepared, super like in it, and like really like, you know, he has a lot of great ideas, and he loves working with the director and with you. And I love that. Like I'm such a collaborator. So I really enjoyed. And then Bradley Walsh was our director, and he was the best, like such a funny guy, like loves to just like, you know, okay, do your version, do my version, then we'll do the script version sort of thing. Like that kind of fun stuff. And I love working like that. I love improv. I love all of that. So really enjoyed working with him. Super artistic guy. And I remember he had called me right before we started shooting, like a week before I got into town. And we had like an hour-long conversation, just like connecting and really, you know, understanding each other's work ethics. Because a lot of times, you know, you're just like, these movies are shot in so little time, like 3 weeks, and you just don't have time usually before and in between. So it's like go. And like when they're setting up for one scene, you go and maybe rehearse lines for the next scene that you're going to do, or, you know, try to figure things out, do some blocking just to gain some time and do the best you can with the time you have. And so, you know, you said hurry up and wait, but a lot of in these types of movies, especially when you're a lead, there is no waiting. It's like, it's intense. Like it's while they're setting up, you're either rehearsing, running lines, getting touched up, changing, like it's a whirlwind. And I oftentimes need just as much time that it took to make the movie to decompress from making the movies, because it's an incredible experience. It's just intense.
Well, I was wondering your process for that. How do you with these two? So when was Joy for Christmas shot?
Yeah, so then Joy for Christmas was shot in October. Was it October? Yeah, it was October.
So that is a tight shoot.
Yeah, pardon me?
That is a tight shoot.
Yeah,
have it ready for Christmas.
And how does that influence or impact your process, you know, to bring something different to that character versus that you just spent however much time getting into?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully I got, a good month in between both. And it's really important for me in between jobs, if I can, to like really disconnect and just be like a normal human being and reconnect with my people and just be home and decompress, even though decompressing for me is a little bit of a task. I'm quite a doer, but it's important because for me to disconnect from that project, become Cindy again, and then reconnect to the other thing. And you just find little tricks along the way, but yeah, meditation is like a big one for me. And just moving my body and like getting back into my body, like letting go of that energy, not letting it be stagnant.
I was going to ask you that too about self-care. And it's funny you said meditation, because I think, aren't you telling Sam Page, who stars with you in that, at one point, like breathing?
Yeah.
Trying to show how to breathe.
Yeah. That was honestly, when I read that, I mean, we changed it up a little bit. And when I read that, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. This is like totally my vibe. Like, I was like, can I get some crystals now? Maybe I'll stage.
Yeah. I'm like, she knows what she's talking about here. This isn't acting, you could tell.
Yeah, no, I had, Joy for Christmas was such a great experience. Like Sam Page is honestly like definitely my top favorite co-stars. Like he's such just a really great human who is an actor and just like does the job, but that like he's not the job, you know what I mean? And I really appreciate and love that. I really loved. And then Pat Williams, who is our director, who's been in the industry for like 35 years. He's done a bunch of sci-fi, like that's like his thing. And then he started doing like a little bit more of like these rom-com thing, like movies. But he's again, and actually, and interestingly enough, he and Bradley Walsh, the one who directed Toying with the Holidays, they like know each other from like back in the day in Toronto.
Wow.
And Pat was actually telling me that he had like mentored Bradley. And I was like, this is like so cool, like full circle. And I really loved working on Joy for Christmas. I also really loved the theme of it about, yes, it's about, getting a toy drive back up and running and, giving kids something for the holidays. But I think for me, it's reminding all of us that, Christmas is not just about the gifts and like going and spending a ton of money. It's like about giving back to the community. And I really like connect with that. And because sometimes I think there's so much pressure put on that during the holidays that people feel less than if they can't offer those things to their kids. And like, for me, my love language is quality time. So I'm like, give me like a couple, like a jar of activities that we can do throughout the year. And I'm like, yes, like this is what I'm about. So I really loved the theme of that movie. And we had a lot of fun. And that was shot in Vancouver.
Yeah. And the chemistry on screen was just great. It's great.
Nice.
You have it with every, I've noticed, we watched a lot of your movies. We did like a pretty deep dive.
Oh, wow.
We're going to talk about my husband's killer girlfriend in a minute.
Yeah, no, I know. I do, because you were so different in that. And, and you got a pretty good right hook. And there was the actress, I forget her name, was Chelsea, was it Chelsea?
Oh yeah, Chelsea. Yeah, she was in the show The 100.
Wow.
Yeah, and you had to punch her, I think, a couple of times.
Yeah,
one of them looks
my
like
character was all over the place with getting people out of her way. There's a lot of pushing and
right. One of them looked like it was like you went back for more. It wasn't in the script. You were like, I'm getting another shot in on her. I mean, how different, when you're playing a character like that. You're very expressive when you act. So it comes out, but it comes out in just such a different way.
Yeah. I don't know. I maybe some of that comes from just like I think every actor has their own, every actor is its own human being, and you're always going to feed off of what you know and who you are. And that's what makes every actor unique in their own way, and why someone, gets the role more than the other. It's not because they're necessarily a bad actor or anything like that. It's just that they brought something different, and the team connected with that. And I don't know, I guess I just have this innate energy within me that's just a higher, bigger energy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we can see it now when we're talking to you. It's like you're no different. It's not like it's really good.
I guess a lot of it too is I'm just someone who wears like their heart on their sleeve. It's hard for me to not show when I'm like annoyed or upset or whatever. Like, it's just all there because I'm just very connected to my emotions, and sometimes it's overwhelming, but it's also a really beautiful thing to be able to access that as an actor, because that's what it's about. It's about telling story through, and I think the biggest thing is, like, as humans, we're always doing something for a reason, and we're reacting because of something, not necessarily that's in front of us, but because of something we've gone through in the past or whatever. As humans, we're always acting and reacting from what we know. And that's what makes everybody so unique, because we have these stories within our body that, we're able to live off of, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And that's the thing. Your body doesn't know you're playing make-believe.
Oh,
so when you talk about decompressing, if you do something and you're yelling at someone, and then all of a sudden, it's cut, your body's like, you were just yelling at that person.
Yeah, like in my husband's killer girlfriend, the interrogation scene.
Yes.
I remember specifically that one was, that was a big scene. It was like 5 pages. And I remember being very like nervous about it, because whenever there's like a ton of dialogue, it's like, because you don't want the dialogue to take away from what the motivation is, right? So that's why it's like so important to know your dialogue really well, because if you don't, then you're in your head and not in your heart. And then you're not telling the truth of the story. Right. And with that, like, I remember that scene, like, to get into that, like, typically when I'm in those kinds of scenes where it's like very emotional, very like jarring, and it like really, I can't really, like, I choose not to connect with other people. Like, I isolate myself. And I try not to make like much eye contact, and I try to stay in my zone, and I think also because people know me so well at that point, where they know like who Cindy is. And then when she goes into that space, people like really on set really respect that. And they're like, oh, she's like doing a thing, and like, we're not going to mess with
leave her
thing.
alone. Yeah.
And for me, that's my process. That's what works well for me. And then when I do connect with the actor that I'm in the scene with, it's just like, boom. And like you said, your body doesn't know any different. And so like, sometimes like in those scenes, like I'll be like, my body will be shaking. I'll feel it like tingly in my fingers, my heart's pounding. It's all just happening to me. And then afterwards, sometimes I just need to like just breathe it out and just let it out. And sometimes, you're like crying in the scene, and then you walk away from the scene and you're still like crying, and you're just like trying to catch your breath. And it's being an actor is weird.
I'm so glad that you talked about that scene, because it was intense. And I kept thinking Harrison Ford in The Fugitive. It was evoking that scene in that when he's being interrogated. And I was on sort of accidentally, there was a film production at the college I was working at I still work there actually. Yeah. And it was Cuba Gooding Jr., Anthony Hopkins, and Donald Sutherland. And I remember watching Cuba Gooding Jr. in between scenes. He would go they were in the office we worked in, and he would go to a door of one of the offices and just be staring into the window, like the glass of the door, silent. So when you talk about isolating and stepping away and not making eye contact, it was really fascinating to observe that behavior.
Totally. And it's some people are able to turn it on like a tap, like no problem. I know for me, it needs to be a visceral experience. Like I don't like faking things. Like I try, and that's not a judgment to anybody else. It's just like my thing. If I don't feel it, then I can't do it. And if it, and I will work at it until like it's there. And sometimes, I think sometimes actors get a bad rap, because if they're doing such an intense, like Harrison Ford in that movie, like I can't imagine he was like at craft services shooting it up with like talking to, whatever with the crew members. And I love connecting with crew members. I think they're such a riot. I've had so many incredible moments, but sometimes I just can't because I have to do like those scenes. And then sometimes, the scene is like a nice, fun comedy scene. So I'm like, great. Like, I don't need to, I'm good. But sometimes I think actors can get a bad rap if they're not like being what you want them to be in between scenes sort of thing, because they have to stay in that zone. And I can understand how that would be a difficult thing to understand for some people.
We felt like that about Donald Sutherland on that set, because he was very stoic and but as you said, if you're not in that world, you can't relate. And he's working. Totally.
Exactly. It's,
It is, each production is like its own family too, which is kind of, for you to go from one to another, like you said, you really need some downtime. And because you go from one family, then you're meeting a new family and the whole thing starts again. And, that's got to be pretty difficult.
Oh yeah. I reference it as like a breakup. It's like it's honestly, it's a heartache every time. People often ask me like, what's the best part about being an actor? What's the hardest part? And for me, the hardest part is honestly saying goodbye to these people that I have, some people I'm very happy to say goodbye to. I'm like, see you never. but for the most part, like 99.98% of the time, the last day, like I'm kind of like very nervous for that last scene because I know what's coming. And then, people get like wrapped out, and I always get emotional at the end because it's also a reminder. Like I feel emotional right now just talking about it. It's like, a reminder of something I wanted my whole life, and I'm doing it. And we're all doing it. Like all of the crew, the cast and crew, we're all doing it. We all had this vision and we're all doing it. And we all created this thing together. It's not like me making this happen. It's not just the director. It's literally everyone. Because without that one person, we don't have it. And I know because we've had times where someone's had to leave the crew, like has to like left the project because, they weren't well or an emergency or whatever. And you feel that missing piece. And, you make do, but it's such I think that's part of the mourning process for me is like, it's, I'm grateful it happened, but I wish it didn't have to end. And and as an actor, you kind of have this, or anyone maybe in the industry where you have this thing, you're like, well, I just worked for 3 weeks and now I might never work again. I don't know. you don't know when the next time you'll work. And it doesn't matter how many times you work. I feel like you still, like you have this PTSD inside where you're like, well, it's been 2 weeks. I guess I'm never working again. You're like, okay, chill.
Right. It's a pretty unique job in that sense because, unless you have things lined up for the next 2 years, you just don't know. What 2 years. And that kind of leads into the whole COVID thing. How did that hit you because so many productions were shut down and so many people were out of work, and the industry was really, I mean, last year was a tough year for movies.
For sure. Yeah. You know, I finished a movie, Love in the Forecast, with Christy Will and Christopher Russell in February of 2020. So I had just come home from Vancouver when things started to go sideways. And so, you know, obviously nobody understood. And like I said, like I had just had a big 2019 and then I did that movie. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, you know, if I don't work for like, you know, 2 months, like it's not the end of the world. Like I can deal with that. But then, you know, things kept going and going. And then in Vancouver, things were like, they stopped, but they kind of kept going. Like things were a little bit better over there. So lucky enough as a Canadian, like I was able to go down there. And so I ended up doing a job in August, chasing waterfalls. And I would say the biggest difference was like a lot more of the movies and shows were filmed primarily outside. So that was a big difference from previous experiences where a lot more things were, storylines were about being outside. So, you know, fresh air, et cetera. And then also casts and crews were a lot smaller. So it was a lot more of an intimate experience. Keeping
spacing, you know, and stuff must
have spacing, you know, the stuff that we all know of. But yeah, it was a lot more an intimate experience, which was also like really cool because, you know, I felt like almost like summer camp in a way where you're just like, okay, like guerrilla style, like we're making a movie, you know, and there's like, you know, 5 actors in the movie and set. So, but I will say as an actor, it was a little bit more challenging because there weren't as many actors in the projects.
Right.
You had a lot more dialogue.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh boy, okay, here we go. But yeah, it was done in a very, you know, wonderful way. And you know, everybody was doing the best they can. And I personally wasn't part of anything that like needed to be shut down or anything like that. Although I did have friends that were a part of that. So yeah, you know, you just life hands you things and you just got to keep on keeping on and find and adapt, you know. So yeah, that's basically my experience.
Were you into that as a kid? Were you in the backyard with the 8mm camera making movies, you know, home movies and things? Or
no, I wasn't. I loved writing stories. And I also did a lot of like, I was very much into like imagination stuff. Like I would do a lot of I loved like playing with like dolls and things and like telling story, like I guess like living the story through like the dolls and stuff. And then also I would wear costumes. Like I would take like a big blanket and wrap it around my waist and use a belt to like hold it up and then like walk around like playing like a character or like looking in the mirror and like practicing speeches and stuff like that.
So would you want to get behind the camera at some point?
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening at some point. Yeah. I don't know how, and I don't know what that looks like at the moment, but I certainly would love, I've worked with actors in the past, like, with auditions and kind of like, you know, helping them discover things about story and their path. And I really love actors, and I really love, like, that's why I love it when a director like plays around with me and like is like getting into the nitty gritty stuff. Yeah. And I love doing that with other people too. So I could see myself like, you know, maybe directing down the road or producing. But yeah, right now this is where I'm at. And I'm a big believer in just allowing like the flow of light to guide me wherever I'm meant to be. You know, I think as an actor, you try to like make things happen for yourself constantly. In the moment, like I just kind of chose to surrender and be like, okay, whatever's meant for me is going to happen anyway. You know, if you believe in that kind of thing. And I feel like the more you kind of like try to make it happen, the more it doesn't happen. And then the more I was like, you know what, whatever. And then it's like, oh, okay, this is working for me.
Just let the universe take over.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm all about, the ebbs and flows and appreciating the moments in between the jobs now more than ever, because I'm a big believer in that those moments are what make you the better actor that you can be. And I never appreciated that in my 20s and maybe early 30s. So yeah, it's nice to appreciate that now.
I'm curious about, you've been fortunate enough to work with some really big names, and I almost didn't recognize you. We talked about doing a deep dive. I was watching some of Cedar Cove.
Yes.
With one of our favorite, Andie MacDowell, who's just amazing. Yes. Groundhog Day and, Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
I don't know if you saw Made, but
yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Amazing.
Unreal. I have goosebumps. So good.
But you've been in lead and supporting roles. So is that a different process? How, if so, how, it's just, I'm curious.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a different process as far as being a supporting role. Like I often think the supporting roles, sometimes we'll have like a bit more of the nitty gritty stuff. And I say that loving both sides of it. Because they're like the leads are often just like driving the story, right? Depending on the project, of course. And then the supporting characters, I think, are just as integral to the story. I don't have an ego about playing a supporting role. I love playing supporting roles. I think I've had some of my favorite roles be supporting roles. Like I just did a movie called Honey Girls, and I played them, and I'm like, that was like one of my favorite experiences, especially doing comedy. That's like where my heart is. And I love it so much. And sometimes I think some of the most iconic roles were supporting roles, like Paul Giamatti, like he's one of my favorite, like love that guy. And he's like, he's made supporting roles like a thing. Like that's just like,
right.
And yeah, I think that there's definitely like the process in of itself is the same kind of, it's just you're adding a different flavor to the recipe.
Yeah. I was wondering, we talked about Honey Girls before you came on, and I was wondering if you were, there was the scene you fell in the pool and came out and you said something to your daughter. She had just decided to become a fashion person. Yeah, designer. And I was wondering if you were like a mentor to the younger women, because you have worked so much. Did they look to you for, hey,
it's interesting because like, I'm coming off of having a very big resume and 20 years in the industry. And again, like I'm not walking around being like, I don't know if you know this, but I've done a lot of things and let me teach you right now. Hey, listen, kid. Okay. Here's what's going to happen. No, I just, I don't know. I just walk in like Cindy Busby and I just do the thing. I would say sometimes like, okay, so as a lead actor in the movies that I am a part of, it's my privilege to be able to do the work I'm doing, but then also be a supporting anchor for everybody else on set, specifically actors. Mm-hmm. So I always, if someone's new that day, if they're like a day player, I will go up to them and be like, hi, I'm Cindy, really nice to meet you. Let me know if you ever want to run lines or anything. Like I really make myself available for other actors. Nice. And I make it very clear to them that like, we're on the same team and, we're not, there's a number thing on a call sheet, but like, we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, cause I've been in those scenarios. Like I have been there where I'm like, thirsty, but I'm like shy to ask for a bottle of water, or like, I don't know where lunch is, or like I'm shy to be like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom or whatever. And so I'll be like, if I'm thirsty, I'll be like, hey, excuse me, can I get a bottle of water, please? Because it's hard for me to leave set, like, because I'm always on. And they'll be like, hey, Joe, do you want some water? Yeah, can we get to, so I'll like, because I know what it's like, and it's really just about showing up and kind of like passing down that kind of vibe, because one day I'll be number 26 and they'll be number 21, they'll be number 1. And if I could, pass that down from what I've learned, then for me, that's like what it's about. So to go back to Honey Girls, like that's kind of what I was doing as number 26, but also allowing like them to do their own thing, where I'm like, not going to be like, but I remember, a couple times, like some of the girls were like cold and they weren't asking for like their warm up jacket, and we're like rehearsing, and I'll be like, hey, do you want your warm up? Can we get our warm up jacket? And people are kind of like, who's this chick? Like, excuse me, and I'm like, I don't mean to like ruffle feathers, but like, I know what it's like to like be new on set. And because a lot of the young actresses there were like very excited to be there, but very new. And, I guess that's mentoring, but not really. Like I choose to like not, it's hard sometimes, but I choose not to go in the business that is not mine.
Right. But if they came to you, I could see you having no problem.
Totally. And we like had a good time, and we had great conversations, and I was like the old lady in the movie. It was so funny.
That's
whereas like I remember bringing my book, and I was reading, what was I reading? Oh, I think I was reading The Surrender Experiment or something. And I was reading that, and they're like, what are you reading? And I was like, oh, it's The Surrender Experiment. Like, what? And, meanwhile, they're like, hanging out in the bedroom, like, pillow fight kind of thing. And like, not really, but, just like hanging out. It's like summer camp or having fun. And I've been there. It's so fun. But I wasn't also like, hey guys, want to hang out? Like, let's do the thing. And I'd be like, just on my chair outside. Cause I was like, they're probably like, who's this like chick who wants to hang out with us? I was like, I didn't want to be, what's her name in Mean Girls, where she's like, I'm not any mom, I'm a cool mom. Like,
one other one I needed to ask you about was the Darcy. You did 2 of those, and it's not the Darcy from Jane Austen, right? But it's like an homage to him.
Yes, exactly.
So you did 2, Unleashing Mr. Darcy and then Marrying Mr. Darcy, which became the number 1 when it aired. It was like the June weddings, and it was the number 1 of all time on Hallmark.
Yeah,
like that must have been huge.
Unleashing Mr. Darcy was in January, and then the Marrying was in June.
Yeah. So, and I heard there was a 3rd part to it. Is that true, or do you know about that?
There was like a lot of rumors about it. I mean, obviously the fans would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I was just in Jersey for Christmas Con, and that's definitely the number 1 question that was asked to me.
Right.
And I saw Ryan Pavey, who's my co-star, and he was there, and we talked about it, and he's like, do you know, like blah blah blah, and I was like, no, and we both looked at each other, we're like, we're down, like just tell us where to sign, like we're totally down to do it, obviously with schedules and stuff,
right?
But it's just a matter of, there's a lot of behind the scenes things that like are beyond our control, like Hallmark saying yes to it, the people who own the rights to it saying yes to it, finding the right time, finding the right script. Like it's a lot more complicated than just me and Ryan saying yes. Like I wish it wasn't, but that's, as we know.
I would think because of the success, it did so well.
I know.
I would think, wow, they would have jumped right on it, but
totally. But at this point, it's been like 3 years since we made The Marrying. So I'm kind of like, well, we better get on the 3rd one soon. Otherwise it's going to be like Grandma and Grandpa Darcy
taking care of Mr. Darcy's grandchildren.
Hey, Darcy, Donovan, give me it. I don't think that's a Hallmark version though.
No.
So is that because isn't GAC Family, that's where Joy for Christmas aired, right?
Yes.
And isn't the owner of that didn't they used to be with Hallmark and
Mhm.
Yeah, is there a competitive thing going on now?
Yeah, so Bill Abbott is the president
Abbott,
of
right.
GAC Family, and he was once the president of Hallmark. And I mean, I guess there's some sort of competition of some. I mean, listen, like anytime you're going to be creating something of the same like the same vibe, you're going to obviously have some sort of competition, if you would. But I think that there's enough demand out there for this kind of content, especially now more than ever, because people want to feel good. People want something that they know they can count on, that they can watch with their entire families.
Right.
And so I'm a big believer that there's room for everyone. And yeah, I don't particularly see it as a competition, but I'm sure some people certainly heard a lot of things behind the scenes and stuff of people saying like, you know, this person's moved on to here and this person's gone there. And it's like, who's going to be next? Like, you know, and it's like, I don't know. I don't really see it. Like my entire career, like, yes, I've worked for Hallmark, but I've worked for Lifetime. And now I just did a GAC Family. And then I just did Sony Pictures Entertainment through, you know, Honey Girls. Like my entire career has been all over the place. So I guess I've always seen it in a different way. But people tend to get attached to certain things and that's fine. Like, that's great, but it's not, you know, 1940s where, you know, you get like a big studio 5-picture deal, you know, like Marilyn Monroe or whatever. And, but that is the case for some people where they are, you know, signed into working for specific people and that's great. Right now, that's not the case for me. So, but I don't know what the future holds, and I'm open to whatever.
What now?
I would
you
think
get?
you would want to leave yourself open to work with everyone.
I mean, listen, I'm a self-employed actor. Like I'm gonna, you know, I need to pay my rent too.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, if there's a really great opportunity that comes my way and it works for me and it aligns with me, then I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
So when you get through the holidays now, what's on the other side of that? Do you have anything?
I don't have anything. Yeah, I don't have anything right now. There is a movie that I did in actually at the beginning of 2021 in March with Christopher Russell and Christy Will. And that has not come out yet. So that'll likely come out in 2022. I'm not sure when yet. The date and the details haven't come out yet, but I'm super excited for people to see this because that's like, I mean, I've done a couple movies with them now and like we have such a great chemistry and people love seeing us together. So I'm looking forward to that coming out. And then, you know, the rest is kind of up in the air. And like I said, I'm just kind of allowing it to just be and to manifest itself. And in the meantime, I'm just enjoying living my life and being with my family. And, you know, I used to have, I don't know, like kind of like shame in saying that sort of thing, where it's like, if I didn't have a project ready to like go, I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't know when I'm going to work next. And now I just embrace it all. Cause again, like everything is working out perfectly.
Now we know why one of your friends, Carissa Lee Staples, is such a fan of yours because you guys give off such a similar energy. You know, it's so positive and so. But she was like, "Yeah, I can't wait to listen in." You know, because we told her we were gonna chat.
Oh my gosh, amazing! I can't believe you're keeping this gem like till now to tell me. I love Carissa. She is a dear friend of mine. We've known each other since 2017, I guess, since we did our movie. And she's a really inspiring woman, and I am grateful to have her as a friend. She's super talented and such a good human.
Well, it's nice to, as you said, this work that you're putting out with these two films, which we want you to promote again, the two, because aren't they re-airing tomorrow? Because we're talking New Year's Eve, but
they're I to be honest, I don't really know all the details of when they're airing. But they have been re-airing them several times because people are still in the holiday spirit, and people are still watching the movies. And if they're anything like me, they don't want the holiday season to end. So they're like, keep playing these movies. But yeah, on GAC Family, I have Joy for Christmas, and then Toying with the Holidays with Chad Michael Murray on Lifetime, which they're both like so unique and different, but like such like fun, like feel good movies.
I gotta say too, Joy for Christmas, like, are those the best names ever? Holly Silver and Jack Kane. I mean, come on. It's just so perfect. That's so perfect.
Yeah, totally. Actually, my character's name initially was supposed to be Noelle. And and my sister, played by Erin Boyes, she was going to be Holly. And then they changed my name to Holly. And then they're like, oh, her name is Eve. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. But also like Silver is like such a good last name. And then the Silver Bells Ball.
Silver Bells.
I'm just like, say that 12 times, like Silver Bells Ball. So, but yeah, it was Jack Kane is just like, I'm Jack Kane. Pew, pew. Like, I just feel like he's like some sort of like James Bond.
Hey, maybe Sam Page will be the next James Bond. We could put that out, manifest that into the universe,
He should be.
He's got the looks.
Such a handsome guy, such a super talented. And like, he's been around for so long. Like when I didn't, every time I work with someone, I always like look them up, obviously, even though I've heard of them. And I was like, his resume. And I was like, wow, what an epic resume.
Well, definitely. Yours is pretty epic as well.
Exactly.
Does it, when you're doing these movies, does it put a lot of pressure on you to have like the perfect holiday yourself? I mean, it's like everything is so perfect. I'm thinking, geez, that puts a lot of pressure on you if something goes wrong at home with the tree or.
I know. Yeah, I don't because I did 2 Christmas movies this year, like back to back. People are like, oh, I don't need to put up my Christmas stuff. Like I'm over Christmas by the time it gets to Christmas. Like, and think of all these crews. Like some of the crew members. Right. Did like 5 Christmas movies this year, and they're like, especially set deck and props, they're like, we are done with Christmas. but I'm like more, and some of them they love it, but I'm more of like, it makes me like more excited to put up all my Christmas stuff when I get home. In fact, this year typically we wait till after American Thanksgiving. My husband's American, and typically we wait till after American Thanksgiving, but this year I was like, nope, we're putting up the Christmas stuff before. And when people came up, it was like, came over for Thanksgiving, it was like all Christmas stuff. And I was like, this is Thanksgiving, but it also feels like a Christmas dinner.
That's fun. So before we let you go, settle the debate. You're a fan of the 80s, you said, right? So settle the debate for Mike and I. Die Hard. Is it a Christmas movie? Yes or no? And what's the rationale?
Okay, I don't know. I don't know who said what, so I'm very neutral. But I love you either way, whoever said the opposite. But I'm going to go ahead and say it is a Christmas movie.
I lose again. You know
what? I mean, listen,
That's
it's
funny.
not a conventional Christmas movie,
right?
But it has Christmas decorations, and it does take place during Christmas. And they have Christmas music that plays. So
and
therefore,
who would know better than you, Cindy?
That's right.
You are an authority on Christmas. Yeah.
Also, I really want to watch Die Hard again, because like I just love those movies. Like so good.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, so good.
So how can people find you? Which we know, as you said, you love social media. So all those Instagram lives that you're going to be doing now.
Try every month. I'm like, this is the month where I'm going to really get out there and tell everyone what I'm doing every second of the day.
It's just you and Suze just going on walks.
Just me and Suze. Nobody wants to see me. They just want to see Suze.
Just Suze,
I mean, the thing I'm the most on is Instagram, if that means anything.
Yes.
And then I also, which is Cindy, CINDY _ Busby, BUSBY. And then I'm on Twitter, which is the same handle, Cindy _ Busby. And then I have a page on Facebook. or whatever it's called now. And I also have a website, cindybusby.com.
Yes.
Which have
Yes,
great
darling.
reels. Great reels. No, you have a lot of good scenes.
Yeah, you can find me on my website. Yeah.
Oh, and I gotta say, a character I would have loved to have played is Marissa Tomei and My Cousin Vinny. That's like my jam.
That's a good one.
Hey, listen, well, you said, comedy is a, you love comedy. So, well, is this your first siblings podcast that you've done?
It is.
Okay.
I think it is.
And maybe your last.
I don't want to do one of these again.
Yeah. Get my agent on the phone.
I remember
Who are these two
couple
chuckleheads?
of chuckleheads.
Oh, you guys are awesome.
And they were
This is
smoking
so
the whole
easy.
time.
Yeah.
And appreciate you being flexible too, because I got to imagine you've never been bumped before from an interview because of apartment maintenance.
Honestly, it doesn't matter. And like I
God.
said, it's the holidays. So it's my pleasure. And you guys are so fun and so easy to talk to. So that makes my job a lot easier to feel comfortable. So thank you.
We really appreciate it. And we really were excited we thought it was really a fitting way to kind of wrap up this season at this time of year too. Yeah.
Dan's been talking about you for 3 months. We need to get Cindy Busby.
Yeah.
So he's the one's been chasing you.
And I said, I think she's seeing some of the Instagram stories. So maybe if I ask her, she'll be willing to come on. And then boom. And we were so fortunate. So
thank you.
We very much
try.
That's right. And we'll tell Carissa you said hello.
Yes. Yeah. I think she's taking a social media break. So
good for her.
Talk to her in the new year.
Good for her. Well, listen, take care of yourself. Happy holidays and have a wonderful new year too.
Yeah. Happy, sending you so much abundance and joy and peace in 2022. It's going to be awesome.
Right back at you.
Bye, Cindy.
Bye, Cindy.
Take care.
All right. Take care.